So last night's episode was more of a darker episode. They're probably the
Hence the
darkest,
name of the show.
probably the darkest one they've had since the Benoit episode. Where they talked about Dino Bravo, how he came up, went to the WWF at the time. Vince McMahon kind of totally changed his whole persona, made him dye his hair blonde, and this changed him up completely. Kind of made him a joke in the WWF. He ends up he doesn't re-sign with them. Says he needs like a little break from wrestling. And go ahead.
Before you go there, what about the stuff before? I know you might not want to spend too much time on this, but I didn't know a lot of this stuff before.
Me neither.
Like the other stuff, the internet, his Montreal, like he was this huge star in Montreal. He had his own promotion, and he was booking himself as the champion and all that, which I get. People might not like that. I get it. But he was a huge star that had his own promotion. Even Andre was there, and all these other big matchups. They even talked about possibly having a Hogan versus Dino, and that could have been a huge match, but they pulled out of it because they didn't want Hogan to get booed.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I never knew he was that huge of a star. I did not know that at all. I only knew what I'd seen of him in the early 90s when he was in WWE. I never knew much about the guy.
Yeah.
But finding out all this stuff, that how he was this huge star.
Right, I didn't
know that.
When I started watching wrestling, Dino was already kind of jobbing out to everybody. So, it was interesting to see how he fell so quickly when he moved up to the WWF. But regardless of that, he ends up leaving wrestling and turns into a mob guy where he's hustling cigarettes and
he's an enforcer.
Probably doing a lot of other crazy shit as well, and ends up getting shot up, man. And it's very interesting to see how this happened. People still don't know. They didn't. Yeah, I agree with you, Jeffrey Cross. They didn't really touch on the WWF side very, very much in that documentary. They just talked about the down days of the WWF. But it was interesting to see what he turned into when he left wrestling. He had turned into this enforcer, like you said, joined the mob, and ends up. I forgot exactly what happened. Then he screw up something where they got busted.
Yeah, they said there was some stuff that someone was supposed to collect, and the FBI or someone raided their stores where they had the stuff, and so he lost hundreds of thousands of dollars from the mob's money.
$450,000.
And they said that later on they found like $50,000 or something like that, or what it was in his house.
Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much what they think is why he got killed. He was sitting in his recliner watching, I guess, a hockey game, and people are thinking it was someone who was a friend of his.
Yeah.
Came in there and just blasted him up. 7 shots to the head, shot him all around his body. It was a very intense episode hearing about all that stuff. And they still don't know who did it. The case is still open. None of the Montreal police wanted to go on to the show because it's still an open case. They haven't had a tip hotline at the end of the show if you have any tips on what happened to Dino. It was kind of sad. I know a lot of it was in subtitles because a lot of them spoke French. It was sad to hear.
Even the Martel stuff, apparently that he's the only, and he declined to comment too, but they did play clips of an interview he did about, he was the only one who really knew about this too. So, I mean, I'm not trying to go there, but what if Martel was involved in the same stuff he was involved in? And they said it was a friend, and because it looked like he was just sitting in his chair and he got shot, like he knew the people and they just did it without, But there's also the other story we heard about Dino. He said, "If you're gonna point a gun at me, shoot me. Otherwise, I'm coming for you."
Yeah, he was not. So, there were some stories they told in that episode last night that Dino was not a guy you messed with. If you messed with him the wrong way, he was gonna teach you something that you shouldn't be doing that. And it's crazy how many times this dude got shot. And they said in the documentary that they made it look like there was 2 people there that shot him up. So it could have been 2 people, could have been just one with 2 guns. I don't know.
Yeah, it look like a mob hit. And people still don't know.
They, like Bill said in the chat room, they also said that Dino would just leave his door unlocked. That basically anybody could get in if they wanted to.
And the other funny thing about, not funny, but the other kind of interesting thing about this story, they said a few weeks later, or maybe it was days later, there was, in the neighborhood he lived in, there was other mafioso people who lived in that neighborhood who were also shot and killed.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So it's really either he did. Some people said it could be a biker gang. The Indian casinos wanted. They lost a bunch of money because he's getting cocaine and all that too. I mean, this whole episode to me was really fascinating. Not saying it was good or bad what happened. Obviously, it was bad. But it was just so fascinating hearing all that. I would have loved to hear more in depth of this story, honestly, because man, this is such an intriguing story to me.
Yeah, it was before he died. I think it was like a couple of weeks or months before he died. 2 people died or got shot up in his neighborhood, just a little bit down the street. Norton, how big of a star was Dino? Is he still talked about to this day since you live in Quebec? How is he there? Is he still talked about? Ravens.
Well, they talked about that hockey guy too, who was
Dino slammed the guy into his own Corvette because forgot what the hockey guy said. But he took him outside
about calling him fake wrestling or whatever. And he's like, "Yeah, so that makes me want to see fake wrestling again."
Yeah, it was just a very interesting episode.
And
man.
Darkseid did clear something up that people were confused about on their Twitter. When they said they came home and found him dead, they said it was at midnight. They said the reason the time was so weird is they left it out that they went and picked up their uncle after ballet was from 8 to 10 to help paint the house the next day. Mm-hmm. So he was going to come to the house and paint it the next day. So that's why they got home at midnight. Because people wonder, what's that time frame about?
Oh, plus the guys that were killed 2 weeks prior to Bravo's death, they were all doing smuggling cigs. Yeah, that's crazy, man.
You know, it makes you think that maybe he was skimming from the mob, and that's why he got. But they didn't really say. They don't know why or how, or what happened, or what's the reasoning behind it. So no one. This is one of those interesting cases that the guy was killed in his house, but we have no idea why and what was the fallout, if there was any. Nothing.
I agree with Ian Dunn to an extent because he says these shows are cool, but it seems like they don't cover every detail. I think if they were 2 hour episodes, they would be able to get in more in depth because that Benoit episodes, I know they kind of missed out on a couple of things, but they really went into detail with that Chris Benoit episode. Imagine if they were given 2 hours to the Dino Bravo. Yeah,
but if you don't know the whole story, because it's not like you're getting inside information from what he did for the mob, because we don't know. Right. We're just assuming that he was. They said at first he was he was a big guy and he had a look and he was related to these people too.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
They even said that they were related and he was a big guy, so they made him become a debt collector. So who's to say Dino hasn't went out there and killed people and stuff like that for the mob because they owed money?
Yeah, very true. They only have an hour. They can't talk about everything. They need a lot more running time to talk about every detail. Yeah, I agree. If they made it 2 hours...
Man, this would be a great story. Or like one of those, like, you know, what are they called? Those, like, I don't know what sort, those doc series where they're like, you know, those movies like you get with all like the Irishmen and stuff like that. This would be a great story,
King?
I think.
Like the Tiger King Day?
No, that's a documentary.
But yeah, it's a very interesting episode. All of these episodes are very interesting. The Snooker one, I mean, it's obvious he fucking killed her. I mean, it's no doubt.
Man, these last 2 weeks have really felt like you're watching like Dateline murder mysteries or something like that because they're so interesting.
Dino Bravo was a top star in Quebec, and maybe he was thinking his fame will protect him. I don't know, says Norton. Not sure how deep the producers of the show could go into detail with the Dino Bravo case. They might end up dead
they don't know
too.
it.
They might end up dead too. Yeah,
they probably don't know anything really to get into. I mean, there's not much information out there.
Well, Jeffrey Cross says that's why you should read up on it more. There's a lot more detail to it. So there you go. If you want to know more about it, you just got to Google it. Check it out.
I'm definitely interested in see what Cornette says about the whole thing this week because he always talks about these episodes. I'm curious to see what he knows about it.
Next week, I can't remember what it's about, but if you guys don't remember the
Is it
guy...
the UWF one?
Yes, where the guy slaps the news reporter because he says wrestling is fake, and he ends up just slapping the shit out of him. Not really sure why they're doing it on him. Maybe there's a deeper story to it.
David Schultz or whatever?
Yeah, David Schultz. I guess there's a reasoning why they're doing it, because they wouldn't be doing it just to do it, but... I'm not sure the backstory with him, so that'll be an interesting episode. That'll be next Tuesday night, just in case you guys haven't
I remember seeing those local reports. I'm not sure if this is the same situation, but I remember seeing this reporter going to say this is fake wrestling or whatever, and then they get in the ring and they get the crap kicked out of them by the wrestlers.
No, this one he was doing an interview backstage. Maybe we could play the clip on Saturday Night Show. He says, I can't remember what exactly he asked him, and he ends up just slapping the shit out of him. I'm not sure what happened afterwards, if he got sued for it or what, but yeah, it was, he gave him a nice little slap to the face.
I believe it's Jacques Rougeau, who was the one who also trained Kevin Owens, who Kevin Owens is not too happy about, doesn't like the guy at all, and said he's a snake.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly what the episode's going to be fully about. I know Cornette's in it. When they showed the preview,
that makes sense. Of it.
So if you're here on Saturday night, Ian Dunn, I'm sure they'll have the clip for the preview of it, and I'll play it on Saturday Night Show. Glamour says, I'm sure some sort of mob repercussion could happen. Might be why Rick Martel didn't do the interview.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's involved in it too. I wasn't trying to say that Rick Martel did it, but maybe that's why he declined, and he knew everything that was happening, because it said Dino confided in him about everything. So who's to say he wasn't involved in this kind of mob stuff too?
I'm sure he knows a lot more than than some of these local reporters or police know. That's why he probably declined, because he didn't want to. John Stossel got his head popped and lost some hearing, said Freebirds. God damn. Oh God, Cornette is in it. Time for 30 minutes of shooting on Russo. He's just gonna randomly mention Russo in that documentary. But yeah, that'll be the one on next Tuesday. So if you guys haven't noticed yet, we do the Impact Watch Party on Tuesday, and then right after that is Dark Side of the Ring. So you get a double dose, everybody. So you get us doing the Impact Watch Party, and then right when we go off air, you can go sit on your couch or your recliner or whatever you do and sit back and watch some Dark Side of the Ring to end your Tuesday night.